In this video, we're going to look at how to store a number of objects in a structure called a list. And we'll also have to look at how you can loop through a list and get to every single object that's in the list. So let's imagine that you had here 4 objects, but we could easily have done more and more. And if we run this program, we can see it makes 4 different colored spheres on the screen at different locations. And in the first video, we discussed how you could give them each a name. Here I called them P1, P2, P3, and P4. But if you have a really long list, it can be very tedious to refer to them as P1, P2, P3, and P4. So what we can do instead is to create a list of these objects. And so I can call it, say, all spheres. You can name it anything you'd like. And I can say that it is I'll start with an empty list. And we create an empty list with just 2 square brackets next to each other. And then you can add things to your list. So we do that with the append statement. So I can do all spheres dot append, and I want to put P1 into this list. And so you can imagine that this would be like a spreadsheet, and you've just put P1 into one of the cells of the spreadsheet. And then in the next cell of the spreadsheet, I can add P2. And in the next cell of the spreadsheet, I can add P3. And in the next cell of the spreadsheet, I can add P4. And so now I have those 4 things in a single object called all spheres, and I can refer to them as I would like to. So what I can do, for example, is if I decide I want to change one of them, their color. Now, instead of referring to them as P1, P2, P3, P4, which I could still do in this example, I can just refer to them as, say, all spheres 2 dot color equals color dot white. So what that's going to do is it's going to look in this list of all the spheres I have, which has P1, P2, P3, and P4, and it's going to pick out the element in block number 2 and turn it white. So if I run this program, I see that the one that used to be green is now white. Oh, wait a minute. Here's an issue. P3 is the one that was green, but yet I'm asking to make the number 2 one turn white. What happened here? Well, it turns out that when you create an array or a list in Python or most programming languages, it puts the first item into number 0, and it puts the next one into item 1, and it puts the next one into item number 2. And so that is why the green one, which is P3, is the one that I reference here with number 2. Basically, all of these storage items, all these storage lists and such, begin with 0. So the very first one would be 0, and then 1, and then 2, and then 3. And if I tried to do all spheres sub 4, I would end up with a problem because it doesn't have number 4 in it. And so if I run this, it's going to tell me that there's a problem because it's not an object. It doesn't know what all spheres 4 is. You can always check to see how many items are in there by asking what the length of it is. One way to find out or to get output from a program is to print it out. So I can say print, and what do I want to print in this case? Let me try to find the length, len is what we use, of all spheres. That will tell how many items are in all spheres. There are 4 of them, and I have to remember then that they run in 0, 1, 2, and 3. Another way that I can get to these spheres that are in this list is by looping through them. One type of loop would be to create a loop that actually goes through the numbers. So I can say for, and I can create a variable, say count, CNT, in the range from 0 to 4. So this will create the numbers between 0 inclusive up to 3. So 0, 1, 2, and 3. It'll go through all of them. And I could say, for example, all spheres in the slot count, which will be 0, 1, 2, or 3, dot position dot x equals count. And so what this is going to do is it loops through. First count will be 0, and it'll do this statement. So all spheres of 0 dot position will be 0. And then count will be 1. And so all spheres sub 1, that would be the red one, dot position in the x is going to be 1. And then count will be 2, and then count will be 3. So it loops through all the numbers between 0 and 3. And when I run this program, now what you see is I've changed the locations, the x locations of all these things. The first one went to x equals 0, this one to x equals 1, this one to x equals 2, this one to x equals 3. I didn't change the y locations, but the x locations all got changed by what I did there. So this is a way to loop through and keep track of which number it is that I'm talking about. If for some reason I'm not interested in keeping track of the number, there's an even better way to do this, and that is to say for, we'll call it object in all spheres. This is a way to automatically go through an entire list. So what it's going to do is it's going to return every object that's in the list all spheres. So first it's going to return this one, then it's going to return this one, then it's going to return this one, then it's going to return this one. And so I can make the change here. I can just say object, because first it'll return this object, and I could say, for example, object.color equals color dot green. And so what it will do is when I run this, it will, every one of them in turn will get turned green, because what this type of a loop does is it will go through all of the objects that are in my list. And so that's a good way if you have a list of a number of objects and you don't want to keep track of how many there are and you don't want to have a number associated with them, you can just go ahead and do it this way. So if I was really doing this in a program, what I would probably do is instead of creating them up here and calling them P1, P2, P3, and P4, what I would probably do is just take all of this text and instead insert it into here, so that I never actually call them P1, P2, P3, and P4, because I don't need those names anymore to refer to them. Instead, I can just refer to them out of the list. So I'm just going to copy all of this stuff and paste it in where the names were here, and now I don't need any of those names, and when I run this, the program will run just fine, exactly what it did before, and I don't ever have to give them variable names like P1, P2, P3, P4. I just create one list that holds them all and then append individually all the objects that I want.